Hello and welcome to the Hindu's continued coverage of the US Israeli war on Iran, which has now entered its sixth week, and its impact on Indians' daily lives and indeed its varied sectors in business and the economy. India's pharmaceutical exports, worth $30 billion annually, are now facing fresh headwinds as the US Israeli war on Iran enters its sixth week, as I had said. The ripple effects are already visible. Premium petrol prices have hardened. Indigo has announced airfare surcharges. LPG prices have risen by 60 rupees for households and 200 rupees for commercial users. For India's pharma sector, the concern is more immediate. Supply chain disruptions and rising freight costs threaten exports, particularly to West Asia, a key market. Now, to unpack these risks and latest developments, I'm joined by the Hindu's Ravi Kumar, who tracks the sector quite closely from Hyderabad. Ravi Kumar, sir, thank you so much for joining us here, on this show as we continue our coverage. So, just recently, there was a sort of a meeting of the Pharmaceutical Exports Council in Hyderabad. You attended it and you reported on it. Why don't you give us a broad overview of how the sector is, reacting to all this, the supply chain disruptions, and what its outlook is?
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Kunal, for having me on this program. Yes, indeed, I covered this program organized by the Pharmaceuticals Export Promotion Council, short we say Pharmexil. And this was part of the ongoing Chintan Shivir that the central government is organizing to understand the challenges and the issues the industry is facing. So this time it was different in the sense, as opposed to those previously in Chandigarh and Ahmedabad. The writing on the wall was very clear for the industry stakeholders. As you said, we are 6 weeks into the war, and now they are feeling the heat in multiple ways in terms of number one, the availability of certain raw materials. I should say crucial, important raw materials for them. Number two,
Right.
as you said, the logistics issues around the war. March is important for all industries because that's when they try to meet the target. That's the last
Yeah.
month of the financial year.
Right.
So
Right.
March was not actually good for them. The whole discussion centered around them, and we had the Commerce Secretary at the Chintan Shivir. He was
Right.
pretty much open in terms of the impact the energy supplies are having on the pharmaceutical industry.
It appears as if the central government is quite involved in key export oriented sectors because, as you said, the commerce secretary was present at the meeting.
Yeah, you are right. Because pharma, as you know, is one of the key sectors for us in terms of the overall Indian export basket.
Right.
We last financial year, that is FY25, our pharma exports were about close to 30.50 billion, and that
Right.
was the all-time record. Of course, there is a catch in that because March 2025 was marked by the threats of US tariff. So
Right.
what happened was that most of the pharma exporters to the US, they were pumping in more than the usual inventory into the market, just
Right.
to just to play safe when the so-called tariffs come into play on April 1. Of course, that did not happen. So while it was a positive for the last financial year, as in FY25,
Yes.
in the context of West Asia war, it seems to be kind of an handicap now, as in they did close to about 1.6 billion in March 2025 alone. And
Right.
for the financial year FY26, the numbers up to February stand at 28.49. It's close to 28.5 billion dollars.
Right. Right.
So industry people are now saying that the it will be a big challenge in terms of meeting the previous year's target. But then they were not so much open. As I mentioned in the copy, they were sounding pretty much cautiously optimistic about what possible can they do even in March. Let's
Right.
meet. They're saying by mid-April or April 20th, around that range, the picture will be clear. We'll come to
Right.
know about.
So one of the things that has emerged, of course, we know that about 9 million Indians work in the West Asia region. I mean, it's a major source of income for households. Remittances are one of the largest from that region to Indians, and indeed, not just Indians, but our generic pharma sector has about 5.5 to 5.7% market share there. What is, I mean, are they thinking that this impact would be on the overall uh, exports? Are they, in this case, when everybody talks about diversification of markets, everything, there's not really, that cannot apply here, right? I mean, if this region is a vital region where India exports to all its generics, what happens when an impact like this is felt on the sector?
You're absolutely right, Kunal, in terms of the diversification strategy of the Indian pharmaceutical exporters. In fact, there has been uh, a fairly substantial amount of emphasis on making them diversify into new markets. At the
Right,
same time, you're also right that Middle East as a region is very important for us as a market,
right,
not
right.
just for pharmaceuticals, as the Commerce Secretary was saying the other day. Close to about 12 to 13% of India's overall merchandise exports are bound for Middle East.
Middle East, right,
So,
right,
so what is possibly going to happen is Middle East is going to be a big issue both in terms of the supplies to that market as
hmm,
also the possible key routes that are there in that area, which are actually the cause of so many logistic challenges that we are facing, right from crude. And if you talk about pharma industry, it is very important in terms of getting our solvents from there, high grade
right.
solvents from there. So all of these are going to bound to have an impact. Once the numbers are out, we'll get a clear picture on that.
Right. Maybe if you can talk to us a little bit more about what these raw materials are that we source from there, which are vital for the sector. I mean, you mentioned solvents. Are there others? And is there I mean, much like what we learned from our colleague Preeta, who joined us from Coimbatore, uh, there is sort of a what to say, invisible line of raw material use, which is petrochemicals and in fact LPG in the textile industry as well, and of course largely in the plastics industry, which is MSME sector. uh, so is there, I mean, and the more there is this impact, the more we are getting to learn, aren't we, that petrochemical as a whole, not just diesel and petrol as we understand it, or even cooking gas, there are these range of products, for instance, in fertilizer use that impact various sectors. So are there particular raw materials which is really vital for the pharma sector?
Yeah, absolutely. In the sense, as you said, many of the things are coming out now. As in, it's until now taken for granted kinds. It's a given thing that we have multiple sources of supply. We supply to multiple markets, and everything is going well. Until then, no one bothers. Let me
Right.
put it slightly differently in terms of what possibly is happening. Is one example to understand the seriousness of the issue is the Farmexcel, as in the pharma exporters body.
Yes.
Uh, Sometime in the third week of March,
Yes.
issued two circulars to the members.
Hmm.
One circular was specific in terms of asking them about what is the level of impact that is visible now for them in terms of the solvents that is required for them.
Right.
So that's
So
one.
what do we
And
mean by solvents?
basically, we are talking about food grade chemicals, food grade petrochemicals,
I see.
which go into the manufacturing of certain drugs.
I
The
see.
issue here is not just about shortage. The
Hmm.
issue is somewhat now people have started talking about the next stage, what possibly will happen in terms of availability of the end product. See,
Right.
oftentimes we talk about pharma industry, we only primarily talk, and when we talk about raw materials, we talk about active pharmaceutical ingredients, the
Correct. API.
API, the
Correct.
key starting materials. But
Correct.
then these are also solvents are also very crucial components that are very important for the manufacturing process.
Right.
But Having said this, the industry still is possibly pretty much closed in terms of sharing information.
Right.
So, what we broadly know is that the LPG availability has come to be a big crisis for the industry now, which
I
is
see.
something that the Commerce Ministry also, Commerce Secretary also mentioned in the meeting. He
Hmm.
said we are doing whatever is possible in terms of ensuring LPG supplies to the drug manufacturing units.
I
Number
see.
two, he was talking in terms of the recent tweaks to the import duty
Hmm.
that we reported extensively that the government announced. How
Correct.
we have kind of ensured that in case if companies have other sources to get the material from, the raw material from, this will possibly help them a bit, is what he was hinting at.
So speaking about the supply chain, this the solvent disruption that you are pointing to, how is this going to impact the prices of pharmaceutical commodities here in India, particularly here in India? Drug prices. Is that something that we need to be worried about?
Actually, yes, to some extent, because these were the questions that were also posed to the Commerce Secretary.
Hmm.
Basically, he was saying that we will try to avoid such a situation. But fact of the matter is, we are now looking at this whole issue more from a micro level, in terms of micro, but very very important level in terms of product availability over a longer term for the patients or the users in India. We are talking
Right.
about essential medicines, and
Hmm.
whenever there is an issue with the raw materials, the immediate impact can be twofold. Both one in terms of the affordability of the medicine, number two
Right.
in terms of the available stocks in case the production is not continuing as in the past.
Right.
So, as you said, we are just at the tip of the iceberg kind of situation now, where we know very limited in terms of the impact that this war is going to have on our pharmaceutical industry. We need to
Right.
wait a bit to see if the what is going to be the impact in the next few months. But then,
Right.
having said that, let me also say that the government officials were pretty much sounding confident in terms of
Mhm.
the ability of the Indian government to handle the situation better.
I mean,
So
that seems to be the running theme throughout. The the government in Delhi seems to have constantly, one of the stock phrases is there are no dryouts at pumps. At these interministerial briefings that have been going on at 3 p.m. I mean, with some exceptions. But when you say that there are, the supply chain disruptions, like for instance, with solvents, did the industry or the ministry indicate that there are alternatives to it, that there are other regions where this can be sourced from? And also, was there also an understanding that this could possibly lead to a higher raise in prices, but it may ensure that there's availability of medicine?
yeah, they were hinting that possibly we can go to other geographies in terms of sourcing our requirement. But
Hmm.
then those are all very broad statements. The
Right.
nitty-gritties of that, in the case of LNG, as we know, in case if we are opting to move LNG from say US as opposed to
Hmm.
Qatar,
Right.
there are so many other issues involved. It is not as if you wish and the LNG will be at your port when you want. There is
Correct.
more travel time involved in this. The cost also matters. But then
Right.
these are issues. I think as of now, as we speak, one, we have I think sufficient inventory available with us in terms of
Hmm.
the finished products,
I
and
see.
we have to some extent the raw materials available. But then once we get into another new financial year, as we are in now, then
Yes.
we will know what exactly will be the impact of these things. Of course, to answer straight to your question, yes, they were hinting that there is a possibility of sourcing it from other locations.
And indeed, they've also, it appears there could be price rises if supply disruptions continue, from what you've said.
That will be inevitable in case if it comes to that. But then
Right.
as government has been maintaining that they are able to handle this situation, possibly because they don't want to create any panic at this point in time. Plus
Right.
the fact that we don't have all the data available right now with us. As we move forward, we'll know about that as well.
Right, right. Well, thank you so much. I think we covered substantial ground on this conversation on the impact of the US Israeli war on Iran on India's pharmaceutical sector. And that's all we have on this continuing coverage of by the Hindu on the US Israeli war on Iran and its impact across sectors in India, which has entered into its sixth week. To know more about this, please do join us. Stay tuned on the Hindu's YouTube channel. I'm Kunal Shankar, the Hindu's deputy business editor from here in Chennai. Thank you so much.